What would you do if the quiet new girl in your class was not a girl at all, but a hidden queen from the stars? And what if the only person who could see the truth was one ordinary human boy no one ever noticed? Stay with me, because this story begins with a secret smile in a school hallway and ends with a choice that could shake two worlds. This is HFY Alien Stories, where humans are never as weak as the galaxy believes. Subscribe now and step into the next impossible story with us. The first time Ethan Vale saw the crown, he thought he was losing his mind. It happened on a soft, bright morning at Helios Academy, the most advanced school on Earth, where the children of scientists, diplomats, military officers, and selected genius students studied under glass towers and silver bridges. While drone gardens floated in the air like silent birds, Ethan did not belong there. At least that was what people liked to remind him. He was not rich, not famous, not brilliant in a way the school celebrated. He was there on a rare public scholarship, the son of a mechanic and a nurse, a quiet boy who fixed broken classroom tablets for extra money and kept his head down to avoid the cruel jokes of students who thought kindness was weakness. Most people forgot Ethan was in the room 5 minutes after looking at him. That was why he noticed things others missed. He noticed who lied when they smiled, who pretended confidence while trembling inside, who laughed only to hide fear. And on that morning, he noticed the new girl standing beneath the white arches of the eastern courtyard. She wore a simple academy uniform like everyone else. Gray jacket, dark skirt, white collar, nothing special, nothing royal, nothing impossible. And yet above her head, for the briefest instant, he saw a ring of light. Not a halo, not a reflection, not a trick of the sun. A crown. It was faint and beautiful and strange, made of thin living light. Like liquid gold woven with stars, it hovered just above her dark hair and vanished the moment she turned. Ethan froze. The girl looked directly at him. Her face was calm, too calm, soft and graceful in a way that made the air around her feel organized, as if the world itself was trying to behave in her presence. She had delicate features, clear eyes with an almost hidden silver tint, and a stillness that did not belong to a teenager on her first day at school. No one else reacted. Students walked past her, laughing, checking their wrist screens, carrying books, arguing about exams. Not one of them seemed to notice anything unusual, only Ethan. The girl held his gaze for a second too long, then walked away. He should have forgotten it. He tried to forget it. By lunch, he had almost convinced himself it was stress, a sleep problem, maybe the result of too many late nights repairing machines in his father's garage. Then he saw her again. She sat alone at a table under the solar trees, untouched food on her tray, her posture perfect, her eyes quietly watching hundreds of students without seeming to focus on anyone. Ethan was carrying a stack of borrowed tools back to the lab when one of the tables near her collapsed. A loud crack of metal sending trays and drinks across the floor. Students shouted and jumped back. The new girl did not even flinch. She lifted one hand under the table, just slightly, so slightly no one should have noticed. The broken support rod rose from the ground by itself and slid back into place. Then it stopped. Everything became still. A second later, the table stood straight again. As if nothing had happened, the students blinked, confused, then laughed it off and moved on. Only Ethan remained standing there, staring. The girl turned toward him once more. This time there was warning in her eyes. Do not say anything. That was what the look meant. Ethan obeyed. For 3 days, he watched her from a distance. He learned the name on the attendance screen, Lyra Hale. She spoke little, but every teacher liked her instantly. She solved advanced equations without showing her work. She answered historical questions before the teachers finished asking them. She walked through crowded hallways without ever being touched. And sometimes, when no one was looking, faint patterns of golden light flickered over her skin like hidden language trying to break free. On the 4th day, Ethan found her in the old observatory tower. Students rarely went there anymore. The academy's new systems were far more advanced, but Ethan liked the silence of the place, the dust, the quiet hum of forgotten machines, the wide windows looking out at the sky. Lyra stood near the central telescope with her back to him. You should stop following me, she said, Before he made a sound, Ethan swallowed. "I was not following you. You were watching me," she replied. "And that is more dangerous." He stepped closer, heart pounding. I saw the crown. For the first time, her perfect calm cracked. She turned slowly, and in her expression he saw something he had not expected: fear. "No one is supposed to see that," she said softly. "Well, I did." Her eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" Ethan almost laughed. Because no one ever asked him that like it mattered. "I am Ethan," he said. "Just Ethan." "No," she said, her voice lower now. "What are you?" He stared at her, confused, human. She studied him for several seconds, then looked away as if something inside her had become more troubling. That should not be possible. What should not be possible? She did not answer. Instead, she walked to the telescope window and looked up at the afternoon sky. Somewhere beyond the blue atmosphere, hidden from ordinary detection, ships were waiting. Old ships, silent ships, patient ships. Ethan moved beside her. "I am not telling anyone, if that is what you are worried about." "That is not what I am worried about," she said. "Then what?" She closed her eyes, then finally spoke as if each word cost her pride. "I am not Lyra Hale. I know." She exhaled, almost annoyed. "I am Larasa of the House of Sereth, first heir of the Radiant Throne, sovereign blood of the Valari Dominion." Ethan blinked slowly. "You are saying you are an alien queen?" "Disguised," she said, with visible irritation. "Not crowned, not yet." He leaned against the railing and looked at her again, trying to fit royal alien ruler into the image of the quiet schoolgirl everyone ignored in the hallway. "Why are you here?" Her face darkened. "Because my people are on the edge of war, and someone on Earth carries a signal tied to an ancient pact we thought was dead." Ethan frowned. "What kind of pact?" "A terrible one," she whispered. "The kind built when civilizations are desperate enough to tie survival to blood." The air in the tower suddenly felt colder, she continued. "Long before humans reached the stars, a hidden contact was made between one small human colony and my ancestors. An oath, a protection exchange, a promise sealed in genetic markers that could only awaken under specific celestial conditions. My council discovered that one living human at this academy carries part of that marker." Ethan's chest tightened. "And you came to find them?" "Yes." "Who is it?" She looked at him. The answer landed like thunder inside him before she even spoke. "You," she said. Ethan laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "No, yes, that is impossible." "It is not impossible. That is exactly the problem." He stepped back. "I am nobody. The universe does not always hide its weapons in kings," she said. "Sometimes it hides them in boys no one notices." He wanted to argue, but before he could, the windows of the observatory flashed bright white. An alarm exploded through the school. "Emergency lockdown. Emergency lockdown. All students report to designated safe zones immediately." Lyra looked up sharply. Too fast, too alert, like someone who had been waiting for this moment. "What is happening?" Ethan asked. She moved to the window, face tightening with dread. "They found me, above the academy." Invisible shapes shimmered into view. Massive black vessels sliding out of distortion like predators stepping from deep water. Their surfaces etched with red lines that glowed like wounds. Students below began screaming. The peaceful campus became a storm of panic. Teachers rushed children into buildings while drones descended from the sky. Ethan stared upward, unable to breathe. "Those are yours." "No," Lyra said, and for the first time her voice trembled. "They are not mine." The observatory doors burst open. 3 security officers rushed inside with shock rifles drawn. But the moment they saw Lyra, their faces went blank. A second later, all 3 raised their weapons toward Ethan. Lyra moved like lightning. A wave of gold exploded from her body, hurling the officers against the wall without harming them. Her human disguise cracked for an instant, revealing luminous lines across her throat and temples. And above her head the crown returned. No longer faint, but glorious. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. "You need to run," she said. "Not without you." She looked at him, shocked by the answer. "You do not understand, Ethan. If they take me, your world becomes leverage. If they take you, both our worlds become vulnerable. Then we both run. For one heartbeat." She simply stared at him. Perhaps no one had spoken to her like an equal in a very long time. The building shook. A beam of crimson light tore through a distant tower, sending glass raining across the campus. Lyra grabbed Ethan's wrist, and the moment she touched him, a strange warmth surged through his body. Images flashed behind his eyes, a desert under twin moons, a battlefield of silver banners, a human hand clasping an alien arm in firelight, an oath spoken in a language he did not know and somehow understood. Stand together, and neither line shall fall. Ethan gasped and nearly collapsed. Lyra held him steady. What did you see? I do not know, he said, shaken. But it felt old, older than memory. Her expression turned pale. The pact is waking. They ran down the emergency stairwell while the academy crumbled into chaos around them. Everywhere they turned, systems were failing, doors locking, walls trembling, students crying, smoke rising through clean white corridors that had never known real fear. Lyra guided him with impossible precision, always knowing which path was about to collapse before it happened. At one junction, they found a little boy from the lower class division sitting on the floor, too frightened to move. Ethan did not even think. He rushed back and picked him up. Lyra shouted for him to leave the child, but Ethan ignored her and carried the boy through falling debris until they reached a shelter corridor where teachers could take him. Lyra watched that without speaking. When they were moving again, she finally said, "You stopped in the middle of an attack for someone you did not know." He answered without looking at her. He was scared. That is not strategy. No, Ethan said. It is being human. Something changed in her eyes then, not pity, respect. They reached the underground transit tunnel beneath the science wing. But they were not alone. Waiting in the tunnel was a tall figure wrapped in dark armor that looked grown rather than forged, with a narrow face and burning red eyes. He bowed slightly to Lyra. "My queen," he said. "The court has searched many worlds for you. I am not your queen," Lyra replied. "Not while traitors sit beside the throne." The armored figure smiled faintly. "The throne will decide that, after you are returned." His gaze shifted to Ethan. "So this is the human." Ethan felt the temperature of the tunnel drop. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am Lord Valor, commander of the Regent Fleet, and the man who has crossed 3 star systems to ensure your blood does not awaken what should remain sealed." Lyra stepped in front of Ethan. "You will not touch him." Valor's smile disappeared. "With respect, Highness, I will do exactly what survival demands." The tunnel lights burst one by one, then Valor attacked. What followed did not feel real to Ethan. Lyra moved with impossible grace, creating shields of gold light and blades of pure energy. Valor answered with crimson fractures that tore through steel and concrete. The tunnel screamed around them as ancient alien power met brutal military force. Ethan stumbled back, helpless. Then Valor lifted a hand toward him. Pain ripped through Ethan's chest. A symbol burned alive beneath his skin just above his heart. Bright silver, ancient, sharp like a crown made into a wound. Lyra screamed his name. The tunnel filled with white light, and suddenly Ethan was no longer only Ethan. He saw every fragment of the oath. Generations ago, when a Valari civil war threatened to erase entire worlds, one human envoy had sheltered the last child of the true royal line, not for profit, not for power, but because it was right. In return, the Valari had bound their bloodline to that human line, a hidden resonance that would one day identify the one soul capable of stabilizing the radiant throne and preventing it from being seized by conquest. Not a servant, not a weapon, a witness, a balance. A choice the throne itself would honor. The vision shattered. Ethan dropped to his knees, gasping. Valor stared at the silver light on Ethan's chest with open hatred. The bond is active, then he must die now, he lunged. Ethan expected death. Instead, his body moved before thought. He raised one hand. A pulse of silver erupted outward and froze Valor in place. Not ice, not stone, possibility. As if time itself could not decide whether the commander deserved his next heartbeat. The silence that followed was immense. Lyra stared at Ethan like the world had tilted. He stared at his own hand in horror. "I did not do that on purpose." Valor strained against the silver field, furious. "You see now, Highness. The human cannot be allowed to live." Lyra looked at Ethan, then at the commander, then made a decision that changed everything. She lifted her chin, and her crown blazed brighter than the tunnel lights ever had. "I invoke First Blood authority," she declared. "In the name of the Radiant Throne, I name the human Ethan Vale under sovereign protection." Valer's face twisted. "You would bind your fate to a primitive." "I would bind it to honor," she said, "something you betrayed long ago." With a sweep of her hand, she shattered the tunnel wall and pulled Ethan through the opening into an old launch chamber hidden beneath the academy. There, covered in dust and secrecy, waited a small Valari scout vessel, sleek as a blade. Asleep for centuries beneath human stone, Ethan stared at it in disbelief. "There was an alien ship under my school. There was a safe house built under your world before your nations had names," Lyra replied. "History is larger than humans are taught." Behind them, Valer's scream echoed as he broke free. Lyra pulled Ethan into the ship. The craft awakened at her touch, walls lighting in waves of gold. As the doors sealed, Ethan turned to her, breathing hard. "Tell me the truth, all of it." She stood in the center of the chamber, no longer pretending to be ordinary. The crown floated bright above her head. The disguise faded fully now, not changing her face so much as revealing the deeper version of it. More luminous, more regal, more dangerous. She looked young and ancient at the same time. "The truth," she said quietly, "is that my world is dying from ambition. The Regent faction wants the throne because the throne controls the stellar gates. If they seize it without the bond awake, entire systems could collapse, millions could die, perhaps more. I came here hoping to find the human linked to the ancient oath before my enemies did. And now I have found a boy who thinks he is ordinary, who runs back for frightened children in the middle of an invasion, who can see what no one else can see, who was hidden by history itself until the hour he was needed." Ethan looked away, overwhelmed. "That sounds noble when you say it, but I am still just me." Lyra stepped closer, and her voice softened. "The greatest lie ever told to good people is that they must be born important before their choices matter." Their eyes met, for the first time since all of this began. The fear inside Ethan loosened slightly. Outside the ship, explosions shook the chamber. "We cannot stay," Lyra said. "If Valer captures us here, Earth becomes the first battlefield." Ethan swallowed. "You are leaving." "I am escaping," she corrected. "There is a difference," without thinking. He asked the question already hurting inside him. "Will you come back?" Lyra's expression changed, just a little. Enough to reveal the girl behind the queen. "If I survive what comes next, yes." The ship began to rise. Then the chamber ceiling split open. Valer descended through smoke with soldiers behind him. He drove a spear of red energy into the ship's shield. Forcing it back down, Lyra staggered. Ethan grabbed the nearest control rail, though he had no idea how to help. Valer shouted over the chaos, "Give me the human, and Earth may keep breathing a little longer." Ethan turned to Lyra. He had spent most of his life feeling invisible, small, unnecessary. Now an entire war had narrowed itself around his heartbeat. He could hide, he could let others decide. He could remain the boy everyone forgot. Or he could choose. He stepped forward. "No," Lyra said sharply, reading his intention. But Ethan was already moving toward the chamber door. "If I am the reason they are here, then I am not hiding behind you." "You are not hiding," Lyra said, angry now. "You are surviving." "Maybe I am done only surviving," Ethan answered. He opened the outer hatch before she could stop him. Wind and smoke crashed into him. Valer smiled, satisfied. But the smile faded when Ethan walked past fear itself and kept going until he stood in the center of the broken chamber. The silver mark on his chest burned hot. "I do not know what I am to your throne," Ethan said, voice shaking at first, then rising. "But I know this. If your empire needs murder to survive, then it deserves to fall." The mark erupted. Silver light spread through the chamber floor in vast branching patterns. Ancient symbols racing beneath every soldier's feet, climbing the walls, filling the air like the inside of a living constellation. Every weapon shut down, every hostile system died. Valer roared and charged. Before he could strike, Lyra appeared beside Ethan, her golden crown blazing against his silver light. Together they raised their hands, gold and silver met. The chamber transformed into a storm of royal force. Valor was thrown backward, his armor cracking, his soldiers scattered like ash in a hurricane. Then from above the clouds, as if answering a forgotten command, hundreds of hidden Valari beacons awakened across Earth's orbit. Sleeping guardians, ancient allies, ships of the true line. They had waited not for a queen alone, but for the queen and the witness bound to her by oath. Valor looked upward in horror, then back at Lyra. You cannot hold the throne with a human at your side. Lyra's voice rang through the chamber with royal power. Watch me. The Guardian fleet opened fire, not on Earth, on Valor's warships above it. The sky beyond the shattered roof became a sea of silent light, vast and impossible and beautiful, as traitor vessels burned and fell away from orbit like dying stars. For a moment, everyone in the chamber stood beneath that glow and understood history was changing. Valor made one final desperate move, a blade of red energy forming in his hand as he lunged toward Ethan's heart. Lyra stepped in front of him. The blade pierced her side. Time stopped inside Ethan. Lyra gasped, stumbled, but did not fall. Instead, she seized Valor's wrist and whispered one cold royal sentence into his face. You aimed at the wrong heart. Then Ethan's silver light surged through her golden crown and into Valor's body. The commander screamed once and vanished into ash. The battle ended. Just like that. The surviving traitor soldiers dropped their weapons. Above Earth, the red warships retreated or died. The Academy alarms finally fell silent. Ethan caught Lyra before she collapsed. Her blood was not red, but glowing gold, warm against his hands. No, he whispered. No, no, no. Her face was pale, but she gave him the faintest smile. It seems, she murmured, that I was right to notice you too. You are not dying, Ethan said, voice breaking. That depends, she whispered, on whether you still think you are nobody. He held her tighter, terrified to move, terrified not to. The guardian ships above sent down a beam of healing light, but it would take time, and time felt cruel. Lyra looked up at him, eyes softer than before. Ethan Vale, witness of the oath, if I live, my world will ask what I saw in a human boy. He could barely speak. Then tell them, I will tell them, she said, that while the galaxy searched for power, Earth hid courage in ordinary places. The healing light surrounded her. Her wound began to close, slowly, painfully. Tears stung Ethan's eyes, but he laughed once in disbelief. Half broken, half relieved. Around them, the ruined chamber glowed with the aftermath of war and survival. Far away, emergency sirens gave way to stunned silence across the Academy grounds. A queen had come in secret. A boy no one noticed had stood against a fleet, and the sky itself had chosen sides. Hours later, when rescue teams, diplomats, and terrified officials finally reached the underground chamber, Ethan and Lyra were sitting side by side on the edge of the scout vessel. For the first time, she did not hide the crown. It floated above her openly. Radiant and undeniable, humans and aliens stared at one another across the wreckage of lies. The old world was ending. A new one had already begun. Before the Valari Guardians prepared to take Lyra home, she turned to Ethan one last time. I must return and claim what was nearly stolen, she said. There will be trials, councils, enemies, and those who will hate what you mean to our future. Ethan nodded, already feeling the distance forming between them. Then I guess this is goodbye. Her expression deepened. No, Ethan, this is the first chapter. She reached up, removed a small shard of living gold from her crown, and placed it in his hand. It curled softly around his palm like warm light. When it calls, she said, look to the sky. Then she stepped onto the beam of light rising to the guardian vessel above. For a moment she paused and looked back, not as queen to witness, not as alien to human, but as one soul who had been seen by another. You noticed the crown, she said softly, when the whole world missed it. Ethan answered with the only truth he had. You looked lonely, even wearing it. Something bright and fragile passed through her eyes, something almost like happiness. Then she was gone. The ships vanished into the upper sky. Earth was left beneath a sunrise that felt larger than the planet itself. In the weeks that followed, Helios Academy would become the center of endless investigation. Governments would deny and confirm and deny again. Videos would leak, stories would spread. Arguments would rage across every screen on Earth. Some called Ethan a liar, some called him a hero. He did not care, because every night, when the world went quiet, the shard of living gold in his room glowed faintly beside the window, waiting, and 1 month later, under a sky full of cold stars, it blazed bright enough to turn his room into dawn. A voice came from it, gentle and royal and familiar. Ethan Vale. He stood so fast his chair crashed behind him. The shard rose into the air, then formed a circle of golden light, a doorway, and through it came Lyra's face, smiling this time, not hidden, not afraid. "The throne is mine," she said, "and the galaxy is asking about the human who stood beside me." Ethan felt his heart pound. So what happens now? Her smile grew, full of promise, full of danger, full of worlds not yet seen. "Now," she said, "I ask whether one human boy is brave enough to visit an empire." Ethan looked at the stars beyond his window, at the impossible doorway, at the future calling him by name. Then he smiled and stepped forward. For the first time in his life, the universe was not overlooking him, it was waiting for him, and this time he was ready.